The world just held up a mirror and the old powers did what old powers do when the reflection gets too clear. They looked away. On March 25, 2026, the United Nations General Assembly adopted a resolution declaring the transatlantic slave trade and the enslavement of Africans among the gravest crimes against humanity and calling for reparatory justice. The vote was 123 in favor, 3 against, and 52 abstentions. The 3 no votes came from the United States, Israel, and Argentina. Let's say the quiet part out loud. The governments most allergic to reparatory justice are clustered around the very world order that slavery built. The United States was not merely touched by slavery. It was engineered through it, enriched by it, expanded by it, and still stratified by its afterlife. Britain, France, Spain, Portugal, the Netherlands, and other European powers amassed wealth, ports, banks, insurance markets, shipping empires, universities, museums, and state power through the labor and death of stolen African people. When the bill comes due, they suddenly become philosophers of delay. And that is the harsh truth. These states are rarely confused about money. They are selective about morality. Governments somehow find billions for war, weapons, border regimes, bailouts, prestige projects, subsidies, and the architecture of power itself. But say the word reparations and the Treasury develops a trembling hand. Say black people are owed repair for centuries of extraction, terror, family theft, land theft, labor theft, and deliberate exclusion. And the answer becomes legal fog, diplomatic throat-clearing, and lectures about complexity. The United States argument was especially revealing. Washington said it does not recognize a legal right to reparations for acts that were not illegal under international law at the time. That is not a moral defense. It is a paperwork defense. It says, in essence, that if a crime was profitable enough, old enough, and normalized enough, history should protect the beneficiary from the victim. The resolution itself is not some wild fantasy of revenge. It is non-binding, symbolic in law but potent in meaning, and it calls for measures such as formal apologies, restitution, compensation, rehabilitation, the return of cultural artifacts, and guarantees of non-repetition. In other words, it asks the world to act like memory has consequences. It asks nations that built fortunes from black suffering to do more than issue polished statements every February. That is why the no votes matter. That is why the abstentions matter. They expose the distance between ceremonial remorse and actual accountability. Everyone wants to mourn slavery in the past tense. Fewer are willing to confront the fact that its profits were inherited, its structures were preserved, and its wounds were never repaired. So yes, ask the question plainly. How is there always money for war, for state violence, for elite spectacle, for subsidizing power, but never enough to repair the people whose stolen labor helped finance the modern world? How is the descendants' demand for justice treated as radical, while the descendants of the beneficiaries are allowed to call delay prudence? This vote did not settle the reparations fight. It clarified it. The argument is no longer whether the crime was large enough. The world has already answered that. The argument now is whether the nations that grew rich from black devastation will ever surrender even a fraction of what that devastation bought them. They want slavery remembered as tragedy but never reckoned with as theft. They want the hymns, the museum wings, the solemn speeches, the polished grief, but not the invoice. Because the moment reparations becomes real, the lie collapses. This was never just a moral failure buried in the past. It was an economic engine whose profits still breathe. The nations that built empires from black flesh are not confused about what is owed. They are refusing to pay. And every delay, every abstention, every legal excuse is just another way of saying the same old thing in diplomatic language. Black suffering can be acknowledged as long as it is never repaired.